that's amazing, a name worth praising. Your love leaves me gazing, it's incredible. The price that you paid, the sacrifices that you made, all for my soul to save. All I can say is incredible. 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 All I can say is incredible. How you make me feel. Let me know you're real. Incredible. All I can say is incredible.
Hi, and welcome back to Life from Studio D.O.C. Thank you very much. I'm the host of the show, Dr. Honeycutt, and I want to thank everybody for joining us tonight. And with me, I have my sidekick,
That's right.
Lisa McIntyre Shaw. How are you doing?
I'm doing incredible. How are you?
We're going to be doing even better after this show because we're going to learn how stress affects our bodies.
We can't hide from it.
We can't, and everybody has it, but it's what they do with it when they get it
That's right.
that matters.
I love it.
Which
I think
is
it's gonna be great.
Why we invited Dr. Renee Gilmore. How are you doing tonight?
Great, thank you for
So-
the invitation.
Glad for you to be out. So tell us just a little bit about who Dr. Gilmore is first.
I'm a chiropractic physician. I've been practicing in Charlotte since '98. In 2016, it'll be 20 years that I've been practicing. So I love what I do. I'm the owner of Total Touch Chiropractic Wellness Center. In addition to chiropractic, I do a lot of nutritional kinesiology and things of that nature because my goal is to get to the root cause of whatever issue you may have or to keep you healthy.
What is kinesiology?
Is muscle testing, using muscle testing to determine if certain things like supplements are for your body or not for your body. So it's a simple muscle test. You can put a piece of fruit or food or supplement against your body. Simple arm tests. If your arm goes weak, then that lets you know that your body is not responding well to whatever that structure is. And if your body stays strong, then that's something that your body will invite or will want or something that your body may need. So it's, that's one of the things I do. And then also I do saliva testing, depending upon what the person's issue is. But the muscle testing, a lot of times when people see that, you can give a person, like say for instance, a soda. You put that against your body, I don't care who you are, you'll go weak because it's not good for you. Piece of organic fruit against you, unless you're allergic to it, your body will stay strong.
And
So
that's kinesiology.
that is a form, that is kinesiology. That's the type of
I didn't know
kinesiology that I utilize. And you can utilize it for other ways, but I do it for nutritional, as well as you can detect misalignments by having people move different muscles in different positions, and that will also make the arm go weak. And that will tell you exactly what nerve and what section of the vertebral column the misalignment is location. So it's different ways that you can utilize it.
So when people think of chiropractic care, the first thing they think about is the popping, what they call cracking my back and the popping. But you have really stretched your chiropractic care. I mean, you kind of reached out to do other things too, and which is why we are going to be talking about stress tonight. So tell us a little bit about tell us about stress first.
Tell us about stress. Well, first and foremost,
Do you have any?
Of course, everyone has it. It's how you adapt to it, or how you will support the adrenal glands, which is the main organ that actually secretes the stress hormones. And once those adrenal glands get fatigued, you have to support them, or prior to getting fatigued. So everybody has stress, but chronic stress, and we're not doing anything to combat that, causes health issues. So in addition to chiropractic, making sure, it's very important, first and foremost, as I spoke on your last show, I explained how there's 11 systems of the body. The one system, which is the nervous system, controls everything, all of the other 10. So when you have misalignments of the vertebra due to things like trauma or stress, things like poor posture or habitual things. Everybody sits up
Feeling
straight
like
when I
I'm-
do that.
Yes, they do.
Feeling like I should sit up straight.
So when you have those spinal misalignments, guess what? You're not having proper nerve flow to different areas of the body. So in other words, you have a nervous system that's not fully functioning at its optimum. And we want that because there's so many different stresses. When we talk about stress,
Yes.
stress is the way that basically your brain, what happens is your brain, how it responds to demands. And there's chemical, physical, and emotional demands on the body. But stress is, and as we continue to go on, I'll be more specific about the adrenal glands. But first and foremost, how are we responding to those physical, chemical, and emotional responses or demands that we have on the nervous system? Okay,
So when a person comes in, like for an initial visit, what are some of the things that you do?
Initially, depending upon what they come in for, but now I'm kind of, I would say that I am transcending because basically, when I first started out, I worked on a lot of athletes. I wanted to be in that type of atmosphere. But as the years went by and more people began to come in my practice, and they come in with all of these medications, all these issues, and things are not getting resolved, I felt as though it behooved me to help my patients. Chiropractic, of course, that helps, but if you have nutritional deficiencies, which most of us do, because we know there are so many toxins that our body is exposed to.
Because we like wine.
No, or things like the things that we eat. We know that the pesticides in the foods, we know the genetically modified foods, we know a lot of the products that we put on our skin, we don't even realize it has hormones in it. A lot of meats that we eat has hormones and chemicals. So our body is constantly trying to detoxify and function with all of these toxins. So basically what occurs is we get deficient. And when you get deficient, you can't function properly.
Right.
The body breaks down. Our body runs on things. We have our major nutrients, which are our fats, carbohydrates. Then we have our micronutrients, which are our minerals. And then, of course, we have our vitamins and minerals. And if we don't have those things, then we can't survive. Things break down. So it's very important to have a proper balance of all of those things. It's just like your car. You think about the car. If you don't have fuel, fuel for our body would be things like glucose or sugar. Carbohydrates break down to sugar, so that's why we eat it. Carbohydrates are fruits and starches and vegetables. When you break that down to the simplest form, is used for energy. So if we don't have the proper, or we are eating refined things that affect our bodies and it's empty calories, it's no nutrition, our body breaks down. So we need fats, and we know also we need things like proteins, and if we're not getting that, then our body can't properly function. So to answer your question, basically when I saw that patients were coming in with all of these bottles of different types of medications, or having surgeries for different things, or had certain type of ailments, and I started saying, okay, let's look at your diet. I started muscle testing and figure out where the deficiencies are, because you can do a body scan, which you have acupuncture reflex points, and with those reflex points, like it will demonstrate certain organs. Like there's a reflex point for your liver or your gallbladder or your heart. And if I muscle test you in those areas, touch those areas, and you go weak, that's an indication that you have a nutritional deficiency, so that organ may not be functioning ultimately. And for those people who are not really sure, like about the muscle testing, but most people are convinced because it's your arm that's going weak. There's nothing that I'm doing. There's also saliva testing and different types of testings that we can do that will confirm the muscle testing findings or the kinesiology.
Well,
So.
I wanted you to elaborate a little bit more on the saliva testing. What takes place with that?
The saliva testing, I do saliva testing for your adrenal glands. One is called the adrenal stress index. Okay, so it's 4 vials and it's taken over 4 different times throughout the course of the day, because your cortisol levels, which is actually a stress hormone, is released. So and those,
Sorry,
what?
but I'm just trying to figure out how you get that much saliva.
Oh, how much you get that much saliva? Well, you could work at it. You could work at it. They're just small vials. The
Okay.
vials are probably, they're not like
Yeah.
huge cups, but they're small vials. That's a good question, though. So you might scare people.
wondering.
But they're small vials. They're probably maybe about an ounce or two of saliva. And your cortisol levels, which is your stress hormone, at different times of the day, we have what is called the circadian rhythm. And so in the morning, your cortisol levels should be high, okay? Then as the day go by, your cortisol levels should decrease.
Is that the thing that keeps you fat in the belly?
That's one of the things
Yeah,
that
one of
could.
them.
It could be one of the causes.
For the cortisol.
So,
Right, because that's high. Doesn't that mean?
well, in the morning, it should be high.
Oh.
It's normal in everyone. And then it should taper off during the night when it's time to go to bed. It's decreased. So one of the ways by looking at the stress index, if those levels are reversed or not where they're supposed to be, that's an indication that maybe your adrenal glands are not functioning. The other thing that it does is it looks at your insulin fasting as well as non-fasting. And it also looks to see if you also have any type of gluten allergies too, because that can cause inflammation as well, and that can affect your adrenal glands as well. Then we have hormonal testing for estrogen and progesterone and testosterone and those things too, to see if those levels are. But there's different types of saliva testing, but the main one that I'm focusing on, because I find that so many people are stressed. And I'm a self-study. I felt like I was really healthy, and I took one of these tests, and I found out that there was some variations and some changes I need to do in my lifestyle. So with herbs and nutrition, and as well as getting more rest, and
And less stress.
and less stress and those
We can
types of
cope.
things.
If we can rest, we can cope, though.
You can rest, and then sometimes you need support, nutritional support, and certain herbs too to
What do
help
you
you.
find that people that are, somebody who's watching us tonight that is under a great deal of stress, whether it be a family situation or whatever, financial or whatever normal things cause everybody stress, kids, money, what's a good thing that a go-to food?
A go-to food. Well, one thing, anytime that you want to be
I
healthy,
mean, I think chocolate, but I know that's wrong.
That's
a go-to food would be, eating plenty of fruits and vegetables, whole grains, because then you won't stress your body by putting refined stuff in it.
No chocolate.
No, dark chocolate
Dark
is not
chocolate.
bad.
not
Dark
the
chocolate
whole.
is bad.
Not the Reese's cup package, 4 across.
No. But then,
So fruits and vegetables.
right, whole grains, those are really,
I think
beneficial.
she's talking about kind of like, how people like stress eat, like a comfort food. What would be a good comfort food?
Right.
Right.
Well, a
like,
positive
like
comfort
a
food.
healthy comfort food for a person.
Fruits.
Fruits and vegetables.
Grapes, orange.
However you have to do it.
Vegetables. Yeah.
And I take it raspberry sorbet does not count.
Well, if you make your own,
Okay.
you can make your own, and then you know what you're getting. You can get some organic raspberries. You can, and especially if you have like a Vitamix or something like that. I make my own ice cream and my own sorbets all the time. But I know it's usually with organic stuff, raw honey, those types of, I use the healthy products. So sorbet would be great. Ice cream would be great, but if you make it yourself, then you know what you're getting.
You know what's in it. That's
Where
why,
do you
yeah.
normally shop? I mean, you don't have to say a particular place, I guess, but do you stay on the outside of the grocery store? How I've heard people talk about that.
Oh, you
from a
within? I thought she went actually where do I shop? But usually I try to stay away from the processed stuff. So on the outside, that's usually where your produce are. And then in the summertime is really great because there's so many farmers markets. And what I've actually started doing, and I'm from the city, I started canning. I didn't know anything about that, but my mother-in-law has taught me, and my mom is learning too, and she's taught me some things. So I've canned apples, organic kale, and collard greens, and it feels great, to be able to pull out one of those jars
And you
just
did
know
it.
that you did it and know that you're eating something healthy.
And I heard you say something in the office the other day about our skin being like the biggest organ or something.
Absolutely.
So when we're under stress or we're not eating properly or getting, adequate sleep, our skin is the first thing that's going to
Gonna
show.
show
You
it.
know, you're going to be able to see it. You're going to see fatigue in the face, right? You know, like dry skin because you're not getting the proper minerals and vitamins that you need. Like you say, something's deficient. So I think that your skin is going to be the first thing that shows it.
Really. Look at hers glowing.
Yeah, that's why I was like,
Thank
you
you.
know, organic and canning and eating
Yeah.
good.
A couple of
I-
our
I'm
guests
not
have
per-
talked about water. Can you talk a little bit about water and the importance?
Alkaline.
Yeah, let's hear a
Well,
little
I
bit.
drink alkaline water, and then at times, what I have a machine, an alkaline machine, so my water is alkaline water, and then sometimes I'll just do what is called, it's just a 7.0, not acidic or not alkaline, just to kind of give my body a break. But filtered water, you have to filter your water because basically when you think about it, I know this is gross. You know, the water that we drink is just treated sewer water. And, you know, ultimately,
Comes back around.
it's just, you know, processed water, you know, it's treated. So you have to filter it to get all of that extra stuff that we don't want to put in our bodies. So I would say some type of filtration center. And when I was living in Greensboro, we had well water. So I'm back in Charlotte, back and forth, and I can tell the difference because, you know, when I shower, I can smell the chlorine. So you can even get filters on your shower heads, you know, as well, so that you won't, you know, be exposed to it, especially when you have hot showers. You know, those vapors goes into the pores of your skins and you're inhaling it and so on and so forth.
So, you know, we've taken in a whole lot of information,
Mhm.
but did we talk about the primary hormones?
Okay, the primary stress hormones. The primary stress hormones are usually epinephrine, norepinephrine, cortisol, and DHEA. Okay, so the adrenal glands are the main organ, and that's the main organ that secretes the stress hormones, or one of the main organs. And the adrenal glands are located right above the kidneys. They're little triangular shaped structures, and it's broken into an inner and outer layer. Okay, so the inner layer, which is the cortex, is secretes your epinephrine and norepinephrine. So you guys heard of adrenaline, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so adrenaline, you know, that speeds up
Flight or
things.
fight?
Yeah, that's the fight or fright, right? And then so it's also called adrenal or epinephrine or norepinephrine or noradrenal. Those are stress hormones. So when you encounter a situation that's very stressful or fight or fright, what happens is those hormones are secreted in the blood and it goes to certain target areas in the body, and it'll do stuff like increase the heart rate, it'll break down glucose so that you can use it for energy. Okay, and so that's what you're supposed to do. And after the stress, like say if you're in traffic or you almost was in an accident or something like that, but what is supposed to happen is afterwards, after the stress is alleviated, those hormones should go back down. Okay, cortisol. Okay, that's secreted on the outer layer of the adrenal glands. Okay, it's actually a glucocorticoid steroid. Okay, and what that means is basically it affects glucose levels. Okay, in your bloodstream. We know that glucose basically gives you energy, right? And we know that, of course, if we have high glucose or a little sugar in the blood, as most people say, we know that's diabetes, right? Yeah. But cortisol, what it's supposed to do is when you're stressed, give you that extra energy. But so you can imagine if you're constantly stressed, then what's going to happen? You're constantly having this increased blood flow in those areas, and everything is being overworked basically in the adrenal glands. So there's a doctor, just to kind of, so we have those hormones. Dr. Hans Selye, he did an intensive study on stress. And he said that there is called the adrenal adaptive syndrome. There's 3 phases of actually this syndrome. The first stage is your alarm stage. So that's what I said initially. So when you're in a fight or flight situation, say it could be traffic or someone scares you or you get in an argument, you know, usually afterwards, you know how your heart increases and it takes you a moment and then everything goes back. You don't even realize that you're stressed at that particular time, but the adrenal glands are working. But then they go back to normal, okay? Then the next stage is the resistive phase. Okay, that's when it's more of a chronic stress. You know, so that's things like not constantly not getting any rest, or just working, and, just overdoing it, maybe not eating right, and so on and so forth. And so what happens with the resistive phase is that the adrenal glands at that particular point are beginning to not be able to keep up to the demands of the body. Okay, so at that time you might start feeling a little bit tired, might be a little bit moody, you start having these small symptoms. Then we have the exhaustive phase. When you're exhausted, what happens? You just can't go anymore. So that's what happens to the adrenal glands. You've pretty much burnt those adrenal glands because you've just constantly just go, go, go. And so that's called, the adrenal glands are fatigued at that particular time. And that's not good. Usually you can't sleep really well, you're very, very tired, and it can also affect things like your memory and your focus and so on and so forth. So at these different stages, there's different things that you can do to support the adrenal glands so you won't get to the exhaustive phase. But if you're in the exhaustive phase, there are certain things that you can do. You have to change certain things in your lifestyle, as much as possible.
The chocolate and the wine.
Right. Even if you take, some time, 5 minutes a day, and just breathe and meditate, get an extra few minutes of sleep, exercise, but don't overdo it, because also when you exercise too much and you're not getting proper rest, that's a stress to your body as well. So, and then we, once again, nutritionally supporting the adrenal glands. That helps, and then changing some things in your lifestyle. Because basically, once those adrenal glands become exhaustive and they don't function, then, it could be life-threatening at that point. So.
I was about to say, can we get a new one? You can't, right?
You can't. You can't.
Well,
you can't.
Now, is this something that you see in children as well?
You believe it or not,
That's
there's
a great
certain things in children, because our children are being stressed, with a lot of activities and different things, and then, I think the lifestyle.
They have a lot of
They
pressure.
have a lot of
Young
pressure.
people
Yeah.
have a lot of pressure.
And that can also affect cause things like attention deficit and all other types of things in children. So yes, absolutely. Absolutely. And a lot of times we kind of, ignore kids because they're kids. But they have a far more stress than we ever had when we were growing up.
Well, we talked about children. Let's talk about the older population, because you've done this, what did you say, 20 years? Coming on 20 years. So your patients have probably aged with you, I would think. And do you see things, you've probably seen some things take their toll on people who haven't maybe followed your advice. And what are some examples of people who have gotten to the older age and really taken a hold of their nutrition and their stress reduction, and maybe they meditate a little? And can you give us some examples of some of your patients?
Some of my patients who've basically maintained their health and worked at it, because you have to be proactive in your health. Just like you're proactive in everything else, you have to do an effort to eat healthy and exercise and all of those different things. And what I see, I have some patients I have a patient, she's about to turn 80. Next year, I think? Yeah, 80. And we laugh all the time because she say, "Oh, I'm old," but she's still driving. She still exercises 3 times a day. So babysits her grandkids, very, very active. Major surgeries. We're trying to get her off on, she's not on that many medications, but I do have some older patients that are not on any medications, and that's huge.
It is huge.
Because a lot of people, you ask a lot of 30 or 40-year-olds,
and they're taking blood pressure medicine.
They're taking blood medicine
because of life. And stress, and how they deal with the stress. So.
And you're not realizing how stress is physiologically affecting you, how those increased cortisol levels or the adrenal glands being fatigued, how it can cause things like diabetes or infertility or thyroid problems.
But you can test all this with saliva.
Saliva tests, we can have an indication as to what's going on with your adrenal glands. And then from there...
And then support it through nutrition and see how we come. Measure it again. So it's an ongoing
Right.
dialogue between you and the patient. And how often do you see your patients? Like somebody comes to you and says, "Oh, I'm just stressed to the max. What do you help me, Dr. Gilmore?"
Well, it depends on which phase. Now, if you're in an exhausted phase, and anytime you do anything natural, people need to realize that it's not a quick fix
Right.
because you didn't get there overnight. So everybody, it depends. If you're a compliant patient and you're doing everything, you should see, I say anything, any kind of supplement, and you need to at least give it 90 days to get into your system to see how it affects you. You may get results way before that, but by no means are you going to be totally healed in 90 days if you're in an exhausted phase or a resistant phase, because that have been going on for a very long time for you to get in that state. But you will see, like I've had patients, you know, I will give them certain supplements or nutritional things, and by the time they're finished that first bottle, they feel the results, incredible results. But I still may have them on that because I'll test them and say, okay, you're not totally healed yet. So we need to continue with this and then make some whatever kind of modifications in lifestyle.
Because you don't ever want somebody to say, "I took it, I feel better, I don't need it anymore."
Because you're going to
maybe they
need
do.
some kind of maintenance with it as well, right?
Yeah. Especially if you live a stressful life and you know you're going to continue to live that stressful life. You know, you may not, say for instance, if I have you taking, you know, certain supplements, you may be taking 2 or 3 times a day. Maybe for maintenance, you're only taking 1. You know, so it just kind of, everyone's different. Everyone, how your body, and that's the great thing about muscle testing and kinesiology and saliva testing and, you know, even me doing nerve scans in the office is that we can chart the function and see how you're functioning and see what we need to do from there.
And really have measurable results.
Exactly.
So I know that you do the saliva testing and the muscle testing in the beginning, and after treatment, how often do you do the saliva treatment, you know, during the treatment? Like, will you go back like after a quarter and do it again, or?
It depends on the individual and what phase you're in and how severe it is. And if it's severe, then I would give that person anywhere. I wouldn't test in 90 days. I would test more in like 5 or 6 months, you know, to really see results, true results. You know, if it's a person who is not really severe, they might just need you know, a little something, and it could be a month or 2 that I need to just kind of put them on there just to kind of level things out. You know, they may be, you know, within a month or 2 improved. So everybody's different.
So we've learned that everybody's different. Everybody has stress, but there are ways that you can cope about it
Absolutely.
through nutrition and
we
wellness.
are setting them up for healthy success.
That's right. Healthy
Yes.
success.
And guess what? That's
Guess
our
what?
time.
Yes.
Can you
awesome.
believe it? That is our time. We want to thank you for joining
Thank you.
us. But before you leave, we want you to give out your information so, you know, people can know how to reach you.
Okay. My name is Dr. Renee Gilmore, and the name of my office is Total Touch Chiropractic Wellness Center. My website is www.totaltouchcare.com. And we have a Total Touch Chiropractic page, Facebook page as well.
Thank you for joining us. That's our show. Catch us next time right here in the studios of Life from Studio D.O.C. I'm Dr. D. Honeycutt. Thank you.